And I think we're live. Excellent. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Pig and Whistle Simak group, a group that was created by our good friend Shawn Standfast, who, do I have the right hand? Yeah, who's here with us. We're continuing what he started, and the book that we're going to talk about today is from 1961. Time is the Simplest Thing. And yeah, there it is. I have this one. Yeah.
Nice.
Ooh.
Time is
I want that one.
Yeah. This is cool. So, an interesting thing here. So the last book we did, Ring Around the Sun, this is 9 years later. So he didn't write any or publish any novels between those two times. And it was a time where he was really busy being a newspaper guy. And he published a ton of short stories in between. So he wasn't out of the genre or anything, but it was interesting that there was this 9-year gap. I can't really find anything about it. I haven't found anything about him saying why. But later in life, he was focused on novels. He wanted to do one a year, and he did that for a good long time. But he wrote just a bunch of shorts. What are our impressions about it? Pat, you want to go first?
Sure. I like this one, but I did not love this one.
Mm-hmm. Hello, Brandy.
Oh, there's Brandy. Hey, Brandy. Mm-hmm. I found this to be, and that's interesting that there was a 9-year gap. I found this to be very dark, much darker than other things that I've read by Simak. Certainly very philosophical. Lots to think about and some really interesting ideas. But I thought that it was more violent than what I am accustomed to with Simak. And I just found it to be on the darker side. It didn't give me the warm, fuzzy feeling that I got from some of the other things that we've read. So.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that at all. And it's definitely more in your face about society and such. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How about you, Ira?
Yeah, I mean, at times it felt a little cozy and pastoral, like his passages, but we have like a real villain in this one. We have a main character who wants to kill people. I mean, it's different than, like Pat said, it's different than typical Simak. And it's a great one to discuss because there's some things at the end that I think will be some good discussion between the four of us.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. Gavin.
Overall, it was...
Sorry, Ira. Go ahead.
Yeah, it was probably overall kind of around mid of all the Simak I've read, probably.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Midway.
You bet. Gavin.
I liked it. I don't mind the darkness. I mean, I suppose if you look at the real world events that have happened in that 9 years gap,
sure.
I think probably the one that reflects most in this is the civil rights movement,
right?
Because you do have this foreboding when you're going into certain towns. Certain people can't go into certain places,
right?
Even though this is something where the fear is that these people are too powerful. But again, it's like a fear born out of ignorance,
right?
But I think a lot of the same themes from earlier works are resurfacing here. Whether it's like the it's all-pervading corporation that you get in Empire, or the magical products brought to the public from another place, like we had in Ring Around the Sun. And it's nice that it's got a bit of a pulpy feel, that he's always on the run as well.
Yeah.
So I think probably sort of 9 years of writing short stories for the I suppose the digests by this point might be having an impact here.
Yeah. And on the thumbnail, I put my favorite cover of this, which is from Analog. So it had the title "The Fisherman,"
Mm-hmm.
in the serial.
Yeah.
So that's interesting too, and it was bought by John W. Campbell. But yeah, I agree with all of you. To me, it's not his best, but yet I think his philosophy's in there at probably a higher level than before, because he's so straightforward about a lot of things. He just flat out states things a lot in this book. Again, there's this deep pessimism about the history of humanity and our present, and then this hope that he has that there's going to be some way out of that. And he keeps presenting those in his books, like the way out of it is maybe outside of here, and this whole idea that there's knowledge in the universe that if we can just grasp it correctly, that will be corrected. I think is the way that I would put that. But yeah, so as a quick synopsis, I'm trying to remember the name of our main character, but right out of the gate,
Shepherd.
Thank you, Shepherd. Right, right out of the gate, in the very short chapter 1, it states that humanity can't survive in space. It has been an abject failure, their attempt to leave the planet with spacecraft, due to physical limitations and radiation and such. And in 1961, they were worried about that. I think people are still concerned about that. We still don't know. It's incredibly hard to put people in space, because of all the systems you have to carry with you. And as a quick digression, I don't know if anybody's read Aurora by Kim Stanley Robinson. So that's a contemporary. And, he writes a lot about ecological things. He's always writing about environment and things like that. But in Aurora, it's a generation starship. And it basically, you're bringing your environment with you in these things. And it fails, right? So it's like you can say the theme of the novel is that the only spaceship that we have is Earth. And, there were some people in that book who actually turned around. So found that it was an interesting, modern parallel where, you have the guy who wrote Mars, the Mars trilogy, writing a book that's saying, hey, maybe we don't belong here. Maybe it's not going to work out for us in these metal tubes. So I thought that was interesting. So we have this Shepherd Blaine, and he is a person that's in a company called Fishhook. So what has happened is humanity has figured a way to explore the universe with their minds, basically in a like an ESP or a psychic level thing, where they're projecting themselves over 5,000 light years to another place. And in the very opening, Shepherd Blaine is at the tail end of one of these mental expeditions and encounters an alien who says, I trade my mind with you. And then immediately he's cut off and returns back to the Earth, but he's brought back with him a connection to this alien who has gathered a lot of knowledge. He's immortal or near immortal. He talks about that there is no death. But Blaine says, yes, there is. We have a lot of it on the planet Earth, I can tell you that. So Shepherd Blaine, then Fishhook is this corporation that Gavin mentioned. And then Shepherd Blaine leaves that corporation and is on the run from that corporation, as well as discovering these two forces that are competing for all of this. So that to me is a synopsis, but is there anything you all would add?
I'll just add that this Fishhook Corporation, they have a monopoly on this. And yes, they also have set up these trading posts where they've taken technology that these explorers have found around the galaxy or the universe and have created these products like Gavin mentioned. There's these new products, but they have a monopoly on those too. And there's definitely a big movement against not only the monopoly, but also some of this technology.
Yeah.
And that again, I think you mentioned this last time we were talking, but there is more than a hint of like the weapon shops of Isha there.
Oh,
These
yes.
pop-up shops,
Yeah.
with not the normal rules of commerce.
Yeah, and there's people that have, gone over and destroyed these trading posts. So it's not just peaceful protest. There's a big movement against some of this.
Yeah, and that, there's a movement against anybody with disability, which is being discovered in humans, and humans have it, and Fishhook is trying to monopolize it. And basically, he says it's a heartless way. They're not doing things other than to make money. They're just figuring out how to continue to do this. And people are starting to rebel. And that reminded me, that whole aspect of the novel, I just pulled this out, but I don't know if you guys have read Slan. So Slan, I think it's in 1940 or so, but this is a book about people being chased because of psychic abilities. So it's really the same type of a storyline. And you've got in this novel, yeah, there it is.
I've just finished reading it.
Oh, did you? How awesome! Yeah,
Oh,
talk about that, Gavin. What about the parallels here between those two? Because I haven't recently read it.
Yeah, it's it gets more involved. I mean, both books get more involved as you go in, because in both instances you think this is one set against the other, but there turns out to be a third wheel in both of these situations, where there is more sort of internal. There's internal fighting, and there is fighting between factions. It isn't you can't root for one or the other. There are multiple parties at play.
Yeah,
you see this again in I suppose the story of the X-Men, which probably starts not so long after this book, where people who are coming into sort of new abilities, evolved abilities, all of a sudden they're being ostracized, or people are trying to find ways to corral them or put them into institutions, segregate them from the rest of society. It's a fairly handy metaphor to have.
Yeah, love it.
Yeah, like Gavin said, there's people that are just against this monopoly of Fishhook, but there's also people who are there's some extreme bigotry towards anybody with these abilities.
Right.
So you kind of have multiple things going on.
Yeah.
And a set of people who want to actually just open the door for everyone to be able to explore these abilities, because more and more people are manifesting these powers, and they're looking to make it safe for everyone to be able to use them. So another book I've read in the last month is Lord of Light, and that has a character who is trying to make these powers available for everybody.
Right, and I remember that book. Trying to keep, it's like an elite bunch of people that are just, improving their situation, and other people that are like, this should be for everybody, so it's in both of those books. Very interesting. So Brandy has just mentioned Mexico, and I actually highlighted that. It says, then finally a country with a heart, Mexico, had invited them to come, had provided money, and had set up a study center and a laboratory, had lent encouragement rather than guffaws of laughter. And this is about where, to set these this technology where people will reach out to the stars with this psychic ability. So yeah, that's a really interesting thing. He's saying, we don't have that in the United States. He's saying that's not going to be here, but they put it in Mexico.
Yeah.
Right on the border, though.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, that's an interesting choice. Again, with all the things that are going on in the world in 1961, Yeah, it's again fascinating to think about. So just make sure, from here on out, everybody, spoilers are just going to be wide open. Again, I think we all agree that this is a mid-level Simak book. This is not any of our favorite ones, but I did like it very much.
Mm-hmm.
And as I think Gavin did as well. But it's still, again, it's just full of this thinking that Simak has, continued exploration of these ideas. And so anyway, so just the spoiler door is open. Is there anything anywhere that you want to go right now? Anything about the novel that you're thinking about that we want to make sure to talk about?
I was kind of interested in the priest character who keeps appearing and
Father Flanagan, yeah.
Father Flanagan.
Yeah, that was interesting.
I thought that was very interesting, and just when I thought he was just sort of like had a walk-on role and that we were done with him, he reappears. He comes floating around in a canoe that he's barely able to operate. And he has some major, philosophical positions that he puts forth.
Yeah, it was super interesting. So I am a Catholic person, and it was very interesting to me. I used to think Simak was Catholic. I think I might have mentioned that in some previous discussion, but part of that is because I once looked him up, and he showed up in a list of Catholic authors, but that is mistaken. It's not true.
Oh, he wasn't.
He's not. No. So, but he is. When he talks about religion, it's like he's not participating in a religion, but he kind of has a belief that there is something larger.
Absolutely.
Right? So that's kind of his position. But when Father Flanagan's out there talking about the Catholic Church and talking about how it moves slowly and everything like that, I'm like, yeah, I mean, he's got this right. It's like someday the Catholic Church is going to have to say something about this, and we just, it's going to take us a long time. And that to me was all really interesting. Just his Father Flanagan's motivations for gaining this knowledge, and it turned out he actually was one of the psychic folk.
Yes, he had the ability to.
Yeah. So I love that character. He showed up, a couple times, and with some deep conversation, and again, that's something I really appreciate about Simak is just this. Willingness to go deep, and it's really about the ideas. It's not always about the story.
That's right.
It's really, this is idea fiction,
Yeah, Flanagan was in All Flesh is Grass, right?
Wow, I didn't make that connection. I don't recall that, but I believe it. So there was a Father Flanagan.
Yeah.
I assume it was the same guy.
How
interesting. Yeah. Now I need to read it again, which I will.
And I love
All Flesh is Grass is one of my faves.
I love that he ended up having the power too. That made it for me. That he was one of them.
Right.
So.
Would he have been as open to it all if he didn't?
Maybe not. Yeah, that's a good point. And this idea that you have Finn, who reached out into the universe and came back thinking it was evil. And then you had, it wasn't, gosh, I'm not going to remember the character's name. It wasn't our main character, but there was another character who went out and he came back and he said, this is good and everybody needs to have it. That was an interesting dichotomy there too. The idea, and again, it was interpretation. So Finn's interpretation of what he saw was evil, and our main character, he has all this knowledge from that alien, and I loved that he didn't have instant access to it. It was like it needed to be worked out, and it would work out for him at the right moments, right? But he would struggle with it, and it's like, I don't understand this. How does this apply to me? I don't get this. This is very alien ideas, and there's some things that aren't making any sense. And yet he was able to pull from that. And again, that's a very Simakian kind of an idea, that all this knowledge is out there. And again, we just need to pull it down and make sense of it. Mm-hmm. And clearly that's going to help us. That's going to help humanity get to the next thing, which we desperately need to do,
Mm.
And again, that's what I feel like Simak is saying over and over and over, is that this stuff is out there.
Right.
People have figured this out. Aliens have figured this out.
I felt that was one of the underdeveloped pieces in the book, because he has this alien in his head. Yeah. And for large parts of the book, we don't really mention it at all. Yes, it's not impinging on him. It does more at the beginning, and then I don't know if they come to some kind of accord, or they become more relaxed, sitting in the same brain. But I found it odd, especially this book is time is the simplest thing. There is very little sort of time manipulation here, although we are told this is like really easy.
Yeah,
he never actually manages to manipulate it.
Yeah, he has
except when the alien does.
Yeah, so he has those two fascinating things. One where he escaped from being killed or hung by going into the past a half hour. Right? And nothing was living there. There was nothing, not even grass, nothing.
Right.
And then the other one was when Finn had that machine, and then he projected it into the future. I don't remember how long. But in the future, there was nothing. Nothing had been there, and he couldn't even breathe there. That was crazy, So then he pulls himself back and leaves the machine in the future where Finn can't get it.
Right.
And then one of the first things that happened to him, he was able to slow down time to get out of that situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How interesting.
I think I was expecting more of that sort of stuff to be happening.
Yeah, once you can do that.
Once I've been trailed, it's like, oh, okay, I get it.
It was like the Matrix. Everything was moving in slow motion, but he was like in full form. That was like one of the first things he experienced, and then it never really came back up.
Yeah. And I don't think I ever fully grasped what time is the simplest thing means. It was a big deal. I think he said it 3 times. The alien said it to him. He said, time is the simplest thing. And let me tell you why. And then next chapter. So, I mean, what do we make of that?
I kind of got that, time, if you give things time, it's almost like when weren't they asking the Catholic priests, like, the church doesn't ever change, and he goes, no, we do, it just takes us a while, so like eventually time is the simplest thing to make change. It just might take a while.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know.
No, he did say that, and it was a good statement. Yeah, that's something. Do you get anything out of that, Gavin? What are you pulling from that?
Well, I mean, like you say, with the instances where he does do something, this happens, I mean, after it's been explained to him. Obviously, we can't have it explained to us as the reader, because this is, it's made up science. But I don't think it ever quite fulfilled what that title promised. It was used to solve a couple of situations, but I mean, it's left very, very open-ended. I'm not sure. I just don't think it was sort of very fully explored. I don't think the alien in his head was explored as much as it could have been. I think you could have done a lot more with that, especially because you have dialogues with other people in your head occurring all the way through this. Occurring all the way through this book. The dialogue between the alien and Shepard is conducted in pure language, whereas the dialogue with other people who have telepathy is a mixture of language and words that weren't available to Simak, but gifs and emojis.
So true.
Images. Yep.
Yeah, symbology.
It was an interesting conversation when they were having it. I just felt I wanted to get to know that alien a little bit better.
Yeah.
Even though I suppose the whole point of it is, it is a near eternal being who is pretty much unknowable, because there are such sort of depths there. I just don't think we explored it nearly as much as we could have.
Agree. Yeah. How about you, Pat?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Like, I wasn't even sure how we as readers were supposed to feel about the alien in his head. You know, in the beginning, he seems like a negative force, you know, a threatening force, but he isn't really. I mean, he's actually very helpful at times. But I wasn't sure as a reader how to feel about, you know, the fact that he had this being inhabiting his mind, you know, sitting alongside his mind. And I think had there been more interaction with the, what do they call it, the pinkness, the, you know, the blob, it might have, because I think I might have felt more about it as a character had there been more interaction.
Fascinating. Yeah. And then he uses it, our main character uses it against Finn. At that moment, I don't even think he had a plan to do it. It was just, you know, because he went to that guy's, you know, he says, I want to go meet this guy. And he goes and meets him without really a plan. But then what he does is trades minds with him, you know, right. And that drives Finn crazy, I guess, you know, the guy.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, it sent him over the edge. Whereas it didn't do that to the main character, you know, so that was an interesting thing too.
Right.
But again, I don't disagree that they, you know, there could have been a lot of development there that didn't occur. So I don't feel like I know that alien at all, really, at this point. But it was more, I think, for Simak, just this deposit of knowledge that he did draw on throughout the thing. So it's like everything you need is in your head. You just need to figure out how to get it out, you know? And yeah.
I feel like that quite often.
Yes, me too. Me too.
So do we all agree that maybe the original title, The Fisherman, would be a better title to this one?
Yeah, and The Fisherman is interesting because it does have like religious connotation.
Absolutely.
You know, so it's like, what does that mean? It's, you know, so fishers of men.
That's right.
Yeah, I do like both titles.
Yes.
And his name is Shepherd as well. So
Exactly.
That's right. His name is Shepherd, right?
Shepherd.
Yeah.
And he really is a shepherd. I mean, he is a shepherd in the end, you know, shepherding the flock to safer territory.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
A new planet.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, very cool.
Yep.
I wanted to make sure I read a little piece of a review by Alfred Bester, because you know what you were saying about the images and stuff, and this is a great book if you haven't read it, The Demolished Man by Alfred Bester. So this is about a society that has telepathy, but and there's a murder. Ooh. How can you murder someone in a telepathic society? So, but Alfred Bester, you know, this is one of the books he's best known for. But he wrote a review of Time is the Simplest Thing, and I'll just read just this little piece of it. It just says, the novel then develops into a battle between the benignly contaminated Blaine and the operatives of the reactionary Fishhook, with all the Earth thrown into a hysterical frenzy. The story is, of course, in the conventional persecution pattern, but we must point out again with pleasure that Mr. Simak is one science fiction author who consistently refuses to adopt the cliche that aliens are ipso facto enemies. It reveals a sane and admirable aspect of its character. He is genuinely civilized. So I like that. But but it's cool to have, you know, him comment on this book. But that whole aspect of it, there's a lot of things that are similar in The Demolished Man about how people communicate with each other. And so I highly recommend that one too. So yeah, so we had how about the Dimensiono? You know, again, in Ring Around the Sun had something similar again. The Dimensiono, which is like entertainment that you're part of, which has kind of come true. I mean, I've played some video games that are pretty immersive. Not as immersive as that, but still, it's an impressive deal. Let's see. I'm just looking through. I have all these highlights. Fishhook, just going out and finding stuff to produce. I thought it kind of reached its peak interest when the guy went to Shepherd with this blanket, and he said, you can sleep in this blanket, at least you'll be comfortable. And it turns out that it's an animal, and that's awesome. Yeah. Oh, so Brandy asked, why was there a title change? Did Simak choose that? So no, the editor, John W. Campbell, published this story as a serial under the title The Fisherman, but that was not Simak's title. Simak's title was this. So an editor didn't change it later. I think Campbell changed it.
Campbell changed it.
Yeah, and I did look up. There was an interview which he talked about John W. Campbell that we'll get to later if we have time. Just an interesting historical note about Campbell and Simak.
And that happened. The more you find out, that happens all the time. Where the author doesn't get to pick the cover art, the title. A lot of times, it's the publisher, the editor deciding what they think is going to sell best. And that really boggled my mind that the author had such little control over the packaging of stories.
Yes, for sure.
It gets worse. It gets worse for some writers, though. If you look at the old Badger books, they ended up buying a load of old cover art from American publishers, and would say, "Right, well, here's a new cover. We've thought of a title. Go away and write the novel."
Yeah,
and very sort of extreme commissioning.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, you're right. That's interesting in history, or in the publication history. Campbell would do that all the time too. I have a book of his letters, and they're interesting to listen to. In fact, so if I talk about that, I just have a thing over here where Simak from an interview was talking about how he would get 6 or 7 page single space letters from Campbell.
Wow.
And so he said time is the simplest thing. Is one this is Campbell loved it. Campbell loved this story. So he wrote him a 7-page letter about how much he loved it and why. Because Campbell was really into telepathy. He thought that was great. He loved telepathy stories. And then Simak said he wrote him one. It was a 6 or 7-page letter about why he didn't like something. He says, it's devoid of this. I didn't like that or whatever. And he said, in fact, I'll just quote him. He says, by this time, I had about all I could stand of John's 7-page single-space letters. I wrote him something to the effect that while he had every right in the world to reject a story of mine, I was becoming weary of him rejecting them for the wrong reasons.
And for 7 pages.
Yeah. So he said, John bought and published stories of mine after that. And on the surface, we were still friends, but there was some reserve in our relationship after he responded that way. Mm-hmm. So that was something.
I know I don't know if any of you were in the group about a year and a half ago when we were reading, this was with Shawn also, we were reading some Heinlein, and we were reading the juvenile novels, which we would call, I guess, YA today. And
Red Planet, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that was one that we were talking about. And we were reading the letters there. A couple of us had this book of Heinlein's communication with his editors and other people too. And just how he was tortured by this editor at Scribner's.
That's right.
What he could and couldn't write about because these were for juveniles, and he was really tortured by this woman, like this woman editor. and she just seems like this scold, who's just always, telling him that he can't do that and he can't say that. And then he's writing back to her and trying to be polite, but
Yeah, that's fascinating. I love those kinds of stories.
it was amazing. It was terrific. Yeah.
Yeah. And I looked through that book of Campbell's letters, and I found he wrote to Keith Laumer, who's an author I have not read. So if any of you have read him, I would love to know. Retief, right? Retief, I think.
Retief, yeah, that's they're okay. I prefer the non-Retief ones, but I mean they try a bit too hard to be funny sometimes.
Oh, okay.
It's a good idea, but it's stretched a little.
Right. Okay, so this is Campbell writing to Keith Laumer, the author, in 1968. So about 7 years after. He says, Cliff Simak pulled a magnificent gimmick with that in his story, because there's more to this letter. It's a 7-pager. The Fisherman. His hero has had an effectively immortal trade minds with him. It wasn't the hero's idea, but the idea of the alien who likes acquiring knowledge and finds that the simplest way. It ruins the hero's life and damn near kills him, but he manages to get the awful mass of knowledge into some workable shape. Then he finally encounters in the last struggle the bigoted, fanatically determined villain and totally destroys him simply by giving him all that stupendous knowledge of 1,000,000 races on 1,000,000 worlds and 100 galaxies. One of the most horrible ways one can imagine for destroying a man is to give him what he thinks he wants. If he's the wrong kind of man, it doesn't merely kill him, it disintegrates him utterly. And then he says, but that's a very old idea, of course. Remember the legend of Phaeton and the chariot of Apollo. So if I remember right, that story is Phaeton takes the chariot of Apollo and flies too high. Is that right? Flies too high, and Zeus actually has to zap him with a lightning bolt. Just kills him. If I remember right, that's that story. I don't know if you guys may have better memory than me, but yeah. So yeah, very interesting. And I like in here too, he talked a lot about being a newspaper person, right? He kept calling the Harriet a newspaper gal. But he did, there was a lot of complimentary things said there about her and her ability and all that stuff. But it was 1961.
I was curious about her, Harriet. Why did he call her? Harriet Quimby was a real person.
Really?
Yes. Yeah.
I did not know that.
I was curious about that. Why he named, I mean, she was a journalist, Harriet Quimby. She was also a pilot.
I didn't know that. So is he just honoring her by naming her that, or was it supposed to be her?
I mean,
I couldn't find anything to link it other than that. I mean, okay, she's in a flying car at one point, so she is piloting.
She is a pilot. Yeah.
But I mean, the real Harriet Quimby, I think she was a theatre critic, so sort of journalist on sort of that side of journalism. But yeah, she's the first North American woman to hold a pilot's license, and the first woman to fly the English Channel. And
wow,
a lot of firsts. Yeah,
very good, very good.
I was curious about that.
Yeah, I'm gonna look her up. So yeah, that's neat. Yeah, how interesting that he would do that. Yeah,
but yeah, I couldn't figure out why.
Yeah, that's something. But he leaned a lot on that, on newspapering. She was going to write a story. Never did, that we were given the doubt that she was a spy the whole time, and then he ended up with Anita at the end. So, but good stuff. It was, his newspaper stuff, it really informs his writing. It's just, again, 9 years have passed since Ring Around the Sun. But, he was working hard at a newspaper. He was like the editor of a paper for that time. So all day, every day, just being immersed in news all the time, and all of the places your mind goes in that I can imagine, So that makes for very interesting things. And he also mentioned in some interviews how he liked to be writing about more, I guess, common people. He talked about like a football player. There must be a short story that has something to do with football, and newspaper folks and all this other stuff. I mean, he writes about them rather than presidents and people in powerful positions most of the time, and he preferred that. And I think that's kind of it adds to that pastoral thing, And again, going back to the time, the forward and back in time, the little things that he did, that was interesting in light of Ring Around the Sun to me as well, because he wasn't doing really well. I guess it kind of was time jumps in Ring Around the Sun, because it was like this planet is 5 seconds behind our planet or something like that, if I remember right. So there was kind of a time thing going on there, but it was just really nice thought. I thought, so in the past, nothing is growing here. There's no life here at all. And he was like thinking, I'm the only one that's alive here right now on this whole planet. And then when he went forward, there was nothing, because nothing had been resolved. And so it was like looking at time in a way. I'm not sure I've encountered that before, where, like things like the time machine, you could go into the future and you're going, all these thousands of years into the future, and you're encountering what the earth turned into. But in this, he's like saying there's nothing there. Nothing has been decided.
It's like reality hasn't rendered it yet.
Exactly right. So it's just empty. It's a void. And that's an interesting thought.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that I've encountered that before.
No, he's trying to think of time differences as being spatial. It's a bit of a tickler to get your head around. Yeah.
I think what comes to mind, the book that really tried to think of that is Timescape, because if you're going back in time, you have to go back in space. The galaxy is moving, the solar system is moving, everything. So Gregory Benford really put a lot of thought into how you would send a message back in time, because you'd have to go back to a different space.
Yeah. That's the thing. Most of the time that's ignored. Yeah.
Yeah. And this one, it's like, I kind of got the idea that Simak was trying to get at that, that, reality hadn't caught up, or it had moved past.
Yeah.
Because everything was so different. But really, it was just kind of like an escape mechanism for him, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. But the idea that that's what's out there, it's both frightening, but it's also hopeful, because it's hopeful that we still have the future to build. And again, that's what I think.
Yeah.
To me, Simak has that optimism that despite where we are right now, we can get somewhere. We can,
it's not predetermined, right?
Exactly. So it's not predetermined. It's like what's happening next is not necessarily determined by what's happened already. We can do better. We can do something different. And that's something that's really appealing to me. And I think I mentioned before, that's why I like, Star Trek, the original series, and the Next Generation. Again, that's that optimism. It's like a place that I would like to go, whereas a lot of the dystopias and dark futures they've become less interesting to me to read about those. I think because there's just so many of them right now, and why not? Why wouldn't there be right now? But the hopeful stuff is helping me. And even though this book is dark, I think it's still hopeful.
Definitely, it's hopeful in the end. I was just surprised by the number of people that were killed in this, because that didn't feel like other. I mean, I haven't read what all of you have read, but it didn't feel like the other Simak novels. There were a lot of dead bodies piling up.
That there are, yeah.
And our main character wanted to kill people. That's not normal from what I've read of Simak.
Yes, exactly.
Very true. Yeah, and Brandy has a good point.
The suicide was really gruesome.
It really was. It was like yeah, I don't think I highlighted that, but he cut his neck with a razor, and he kept cutting even after he had done it. And that's pretty dark for Simak.
Yeah.
But so if we want to talk about the end a little bit, so like we don't have to go into detail, but a bunch of stuff happens, and the villain dies, and our main character Shepard just figures out that he can teleport himself or astral projection, or it's actually like the next level of this, because it's implied that his body's actually going out to this planet, and he doesn't need this booth or whatever that Fishhook had a monopoly on.
Yeah.
And he can train other people to do it. So the solution to this bigotry almost becomes, let's just go out to our own planet.
Yeah, let's leave.
And leave, And so I kind of want to ask you guys, like, if that's what you got out of that, or if
that is what I got out of that. Yeah. So really, the stuff that he got from Finn was, I guess why Finn was so afraid is because we were opening the door to all these things that he was afraid of, right? Mm-hmm. And it was fear driven. So Shepard took that and he looked at it, and it was weird and alien and something that seemed repulsive, right? And then yet he could see the use of it, and as he used it, it became less repulsive, less frightening, and then now they could use it at will. And then he shared that with everybody and said, yeah, let's just get the heck out of here, get you guys gone. And because you're not going to change the minds of a mob of people. And it seemed like it was, nationwide, if not worldwide, that this persecution was happening. So you're not going to reverse that. So he just said, let's just go somewhere else.
Well, I mean, and that's the bit that I find quite depressing. Like, we're not going to change their minds.
Yeah.
Right.
And we saw this as well in Ring Around the Sun. It's okay. Well, we can't escape what the world has become, so we'll just escape to another world, which is exactly what they do here.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, and the Finn situation is just the ultimate example of this, because he's given the same information, he's given the same mind trade that Shepard is, but he can't take any opinion that isn't his own. He can't see any perspective that doesn't chime with his own, and it breaks him mentally.
Yeah. Wow. See, that's prescient. It's. I remember when I first read like Plato, and I was surprised, naively so, that we were thinking about the same stuff, all these years later. That I read it when I was really young, but it was like, I remember thinking we haven't progressed at all, at all. But what Gavin's saying there, that is extremely depressing thought. Because people have the paradigms, and they have their framework, they have their worldview, and man, does it take a lot to break that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, our main character Shepard runs across this group of these children when he's traveling with this, he's hitchhiking with this guy who has extreme like xenophobia of this new race of people, and he likens them to, was he the one that likened them to like werewolves?
Yeah.
And he's carrying around a gun, and we see these almost like apparitions of children, and they're like just born into this and have no other worldview or whatever, and this is the first people he takes away from the planet.
Yeah.
At the end,
which is good. In fact, you just reminded me of the last lines.
Yeah.
So you come in here. Let's see. It says, the darkness of the mind, the bleakness of the thought, the shallowness of purpose. These were the werewolves of the world.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, I think I'm with Guy. I got a little depressed at the end that was the solution to this one.
Yeah, and it is, so it's what Simak keeps returning to, in more than these two books, more than Ring Around the Sun and Time is the Simplest Thing. They're very similar in a lot of ways, but he just like, these solutions that he's coming up with are almost fairy tale like, right? It's like wish fulfillment. I wish we could do this, right? But he's surmising that if we can just tap into what might be in the universe, that the attitudes will change, or at least we will find a way out for some, But you're right. It's like wish fulfillment.
Yeah, and in the end, if time is the simplest thing, that was also kind of brought up, that eventually, maybe these people that exiled themselves to a different planet, which actually sounded like a pretty good place to be.
Yep.
But, maybe the rest of the world will catch up someday.
Yeah, right. And that's what we all keep hoping, is that we're going to become sane someday. And it's the systems too, right? It's like he's always talking about the systems and breaking down the systems. Like, in Ring Around the Sun, it was these products that are just destroying the economy, while at the same time providing food and shelter and all this stuff and making that available to everyone, which is destroying the companies. And in this one, the companies are controlling that and making money on it. And the persecution that occurs for the psychic people or the telepathic people. Wow. I mean, this is like a meandering sentence, but I'm like kind of spiraling around just this idea that I think Simak does this over and over, where he's like, we got to break these things so we can make new things.
I just wish there was something where he came up with an idea that could be used.
Yes.
Because
I
mean, in Ring Around the Sun, we have so the corporations are undermined by this new corporation who can make a better product, but this new corporation is also able to feed everybody anyway, which is not the situation in the real world. Right. This one is much more like the real world, where you have increasing monopolies in our time, and looking to pull the drawbridge up to stop any competition happening, because the fear that Fishhook is fomenting in these communities is to stop any rival group of paranormal users doing the same thing.
Right.
Yeah.
They want all the toys themselves.
Yes.
Yeah, and when we get to South Dakota on this grand journey, we find that there's towns that have embraced one or the other. It's very polarizing.
Yeah.
And Shepard goes from town to town a couple times, experiencing these drastic differences.
Yeah. I was looking for something
frighteningly familiar, actually.
Yeah, and that's part of why, this trek we've been on through these Simak novels, I find him really prescient, but he was living through times that are maybe harder than they are now. I keep, he'll say a sentence or something, and I'm like, yeah, that's what's going on right now. And I think it was going on then too. So it's like we're not living through something really new.
Yeah.
It's just this cyclical thing that we keep doing, that that we keep finding ourselves in, and we can't break this cycle.
Just stupider every time.
Yeah. Could be.
Well, that's exactly what I wrote on this passage. I was just like, now, today, in those villages, he wondered how much ability and genius might be lying barren, ability and genius that the world could use but would never know, because of intolerance and hate, which was held against the very people who were least qualified as the targets of it. And the pity of it was that such hate and such intolerance would never have been born, could never have existed, Had it not been for men like Finn, the bigots and the egomaniacs, the harsh, stern Puritans, the little men who felt the need of power to lift them from their smallness.
Wow. Yeah.
Oh, my
Perfectly said.
Okay, it's a 4-star now. I just
changed my mind. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
There was a passage that I was looking for that I'm not going to be able to find, I don't think, but it had to do with tolerance, you know, and I don't know that I love the word tolerance, but it's talking about, you know, what we have here on Earth and humans being intolerant of each other, and the idea that being tolerant of life itself, you know, it was like a higher thing. It's like these aliens have learned to love life itself, and once you get that, then the petty stuff that we've got going is minor, you know, and it becomes something, you know, it's like, of course it's tolerable, you know, we're not going to be afraid of each other anymore. We're going to be, you know, we're going to live fine with each other because you're at this higher thing where, you know, it's just like life as a whole, all kinds of it, you know, things that are so different from us that we can't even imagine it. And we're able to, again, tolerate that, you know, we're able to live with that without fear is really how I would put it. And he said that there's a paragraph in which he says that, and it might've been in one of those conversations with the pinkness. But I don't have it highlighted. So, but it was a good idea. You know, how do we change this? You know, something outside is needed. You know, and science fiction is full of that. You know, it's like you think Arthur C. Clarke, 2010, where, you know, the monoliths that are out there, you know, at Jupiter, they stop a war. You know, he's not the only one who did this, but it was basically, you know, I guess spoiler alert, but if you haven't seen the movie or the book, but you know, Jupiter's turned into another sun, and it's like all these worlds are yours, you know, all the moons of Jupiter. So shape up, and you've got enough space, you know, you got enough resources. Let's stop fighting.
Well, I mean, Klaatu is very explicit in The Day the Earth Stood Still.
Yes, that's
I mean,
right.
This is the high. I mean, you know, that actually gets a little bit religious in its aspect, because you have this person who has come down from on high to tell us, you know, what the score is, and you know, here behind me is the robot of fire and brimstone that's going to sort it out if you know, if you don't shape up. Yep.
It's a recurring theme in science fiction. So very good.
No one ever listens.
No one ever listens. That's great. So is there anything else we'd like to talk about this book? We've just about reached an hour or so.
I'll say there was one reference to a can of worms.
Yeah.
Which shows up in Simak's thing, especially when he's talking about like an alien thing, you know. It's
that's right.
I'll describe it as a can of worms. And then I caught 2 huddles.
Did you? Okay.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
There's huddling, there's cuddling, and there's hunkering.
Yeah. So I have the Kindle version here in front of me, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 huddles.
Oh,
wow.
I missed a few.
It's just his favorite word. But yeah, the can of worms was great. You know, his mind was like a can of worms is what was in this one, right? Yeah, that's right. Oh, I love it. I love it.
Yeah, I just wanted to say I really love discussing these books with you guys, because you think you have an impression of the book, you know, and you have feelings about it, but so much more comes out just being able to talk about it with others, you know, and then, you know, it really, I don't know, my feelings about the book are sort of, you know, they're transforming as I hear your ideas, and you know, I really appreciate that. So.
That's great, and I do too, and I agree 100%. That's why I love these discussions very much. So thank you all for participating.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so, I don't know if the next one
next up for us.
I don't know if this will be as philosophical, but
it might not be. Yeah. It might be shorter too, right? So The Trouble with Tycho is a novella, is kind of cool back too.
Yeah.
Well, I guess it's the same pictures on the
Michael
front.
Whalen, right?
Yeah, sure looks like him.
Yep.
That's great. So yeah, that'll be for next month. So this will be a short read. Although all his books are really short.
They're pretty short. Yeah.
Yeah. Ooh, we got a note from Brandy here. Brandy, thank you for being out there. It's fun to have you.
Absolutely.
Yep, that's why we need book friends. I agree with you.
Absolutely.
You bet.
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you all again. It was a pleasure to talk to all of you. And thanks for watching, everybody.
Take care.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.